City sidewalks, busy sidewalks, dressed in holiday style. In the air, there's a feeling of Christmas.
The interesting question is, what was it like knowing someone, you're related to someone, and you know they're out there, and you haven't met them? And I pondered that to some degree, and my wife and I decided to take a trip many years ago. And I got a chance to meet David, and I got a chance to meet Rob at another time. So I felt really comfortable with both David and Rob, and that was an immediate comfort. It was not something that I felt had to build and had to go on. It was really pretty incredible.
Sense of humor. I had no idea we had all this sense of humor. It's just very apparent now. Whenever somebody says that our family has a sense of humor, that now I think I know where it came from.
My dad met David and knew of Rob before I was born, the mid-70s, and I came about in 79, so I've grown up with it. And I'm just so excited to be here and so happy to be here and talk to everyone face to face and meet Rory and meet Ian and really have a chance to sit down with everyone and feel like it's a family gathering and a family reunion. And
I think this is the first time that all the Caskeys have been together ever. And I think it's really, really cool, and I think that Grandpa has really been enjoying it, and I'm really happy. It's, you can kind of see it in him. He's kind of walking around, and hey, this is really great.
When I first met Mike in 1977, it was a wonderful thing, and also startling because of the resemblance with my father and his mannerisms and his looks. But we had a lot in common too. And it really got me to thinking that if I was to become a father, and I hope to, I had someone I was very close to, and I'd become very close to her family because I never had cousins, and they became my surrogate family. And I kind of wondered. I said, well, yeah, maybe this will happen someday. And the next generation, not so much that it was a secret that they'll never know, but it won't matter at all. It will just be part of the great fabric of reality. And now that it's come around, I think of my father and Grandpa as kind of one of the last of the great warriors. He lived in an era that hopefully we'll never have to see again. He really he sacrificed, and he felt like he made some real mistakes, but he has spent his whole life, I think, trying to make good. And there's a joy, a spring in his step here, and he's actually seeing a day happen that he never thought would happen, and I am. And I guess the nicest thing for me is these people, not only are they family, but I feel like I got some friends now.
Mike is to Grandpa. I think their mannerisms, they look almost identical to me, whereas you and your mom, you and Rob look so much similar to your mom. That's kind of weird. Rory could not be more excited. She's really, really happy about seeing everybody.
Dad told me a lot about Chris and Darylyn, but I didn't know that much about Mike and Kim. And I didn't know anything about Grandpa's first wife, and I really wanted to learn about that other part of my family. And I always wanted to meet them for a really long time. And on TV, there was always people with family reunions, and at school, and I never got to have one, and I wondered why, because my family is so scattered. So I was really happy when I learned that we were going to have a family reunion.
So this whole thing for me is kind of like being in a hallway, and you see at the end of the hallway, you see a door, and it says Caskey on it. And you know that it's a part of you, and you go and you open the door, and this time around you find out that there's more people there. And you realize that heritage and blood, it's not something that can just pop up. So this has all been here, and it's been really interesting, like finding out about a great secret to hop on into and say, I've got more relatives out there, and I've met them, and and we've talked, and we've all looked at each other in the eye, and we've all come to some understanding, and it's really fascinating, more fascinating than anything else really could ever be, because of how real it is.
Well, I first started thinking about this get-together when I heard about it, but it was just sort of like maybe reading a news flash or something like that in a newspaper. I didn't really internalize it and process it for myself as something that was going to be real until I started seeing people, you know, coming in off the plane and coming in from the cars and coming up to the door and everything else. I mean, and it has been really exciting for me to connect names to people's faces and who they are and what they're doing and what's going on in their lives, and know that we're all family. We're all Caskeys.
James and Dolores have been married for 51 years. I think about 1963 is when this picture was taken. It was around Valentine's Day from the background. They had 2 children by then, and they traveled pretty extensively. And they were kind of becoming at one with each other, I think.
I guess you want to know how I met your grandpa. About 52 years ago at an air base in Texas. And he was stationed there, and I was working in the office of the Adjutant General. And I met this very nice, polite pilot. And we had some business relations because he would come into my office for things that I used to process. So we started dating, and we played bridge a couple of times. At least I thought I was playing bridge, and he told me that he would happily improve my bridge game, which was not the best way to start off, but we worked that out. And we dated, and we found we had a lot to talk about. We enjoyed each other's company. But I wasn't particularly anxious to, I wasn't looking for a permanent relationship, but I gradually really got to like him more. And then, you know, he told me that he basically was not eligible because he was in the process of getting a divorce from a brief marriage that he had had when he was in China. So that really suited me fine because I wasn't anxious to make a permanent connection either. But eventually we decided that we were really in love. We got married. We were married in Florida. And from then on, we began a journey throughout the United States, Europe, Asia. And that was a great part for me. We didn't have a lot of money because salaries in the service in those days were not as good as they are now. But for me, coming from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where my dream as a kid was to go to New York City, the first time I found myself walking down Bond Street in London, hey, that was the nuts. I loved it. And we had a wonderful life in England. David and well, actually, we were in Japan. Rob was born, and I did make one miscalculation, but I really had no control over it because in the service you go where you're sent, and both our children were born in the South, one in South Carolina and one in Alabama. That was not my fault, but I was there, and that's, you know. But anyway, we went to Japan. We had a great time in Japan. And then came back, and David was born in South Carolina. Alabama.
I had a blind date with your mother when I was stationed in El Paso to play bridge. And I enjoyed the evening, and bridge wasn't very good, but I had another date with her. And during that date, I told her about my life and about where I was and what I was hoping to be able to do. And we started going together. And a few dates after that, one Sunday afternoon, this was in El Paso in August, she stopped by a church. We were out for a walk and she stopped by a church. And I think my words were, "What the hell are you going in there for?" But the question was, "Why are you going in there?" And she said, "I'm going in there to pray for you." And I think that's the day I started thinking fairly seriously about her. And things progressed, and for a long time, I didn't think she'd ever marry me. And finally, on Valentine's Day, I was able to give her a ring. It had a flaw in it. The diamond had a flaw in it, big enough that you could see it with your naked eye. And it was a ring. It was a diamond that had been given to somebody else. And the girl gave it back to the fella, and I can't even tell you who that was. And I got it, probably, I don't know, a few dollars. And had a jewelry manufacturer set it. And she was mad because I was an hour late. And I took her a box of cheap candy. And she said, "I thought maybe you could do something better than that." First, she was mad because I was late. And she said, "I thought you could do something better than that." And I said, "Like what?" She said, "Like a ring." So I got it out and handed it to her. And she said, "Well, no, I'm not sure. Maybe tomorrow." I said, "No, you make a decision now. You either put it on or we'll forget the whole thing." So some other decisions in our lives have been made about the same way. And she's told me a couple of times, "You do it now." And I guess I've been very, very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have Mike as a son. I'm very more fortunate to have you and Rob as sons. And I can't get over having my grandchildren with me over this Christmas. I have to watch out or I'll get choked up. It's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And I've had some pretty interesting things happen. Not all great, but pretty interesting.
Sleigh bells are ringing, are you listening? And the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in the winter wonderland. Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland. Yeah, in the meadow we can build a snowman, then pretend that he is Parson Brown. He'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, man." "Oh, but you can do the job when you're in town." Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire, two-faced unafraid, the plans have been made, walking in the winter wonderland.
In the meadow we can build a snowman, then pretend that he is Parson Brown.
He'll say, "Are you married?" We'll say, "No, man, but you can do the job when you're in town." Or later on, we will conspire as we dream by the fire, two-faced unafraid, the plan that we made, walking in the winter walking in the winter wonderland. You hear me talking, walking in the winter wonderland.